Are you wasting time boxing up packages and going to the post office or the UPS store? Are you tired of not knowing what you'll pay when you get there? Just Ship offers pickup service and flat rate packaging and postage rates, which takes the guesswork out of shipping while saving you time and money. So quit wasting valuable time and money. Call or text Just Ship at 352-234-3840. That's 352-234-3840. Just Shipped.
Say, have you been searching for some truly unusual flowers or plants for your yard? Well, you'll find them at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. First thing to do is check this week's big color ad in the paper or go to bobwinescamelliagardens.net. Then hurry on over. You'll probably find just what you're looking for, like the picture plant for just $6.99, a string of pearl for only $9.99. More things like lemongrass, lavender, angel trumpet, all kinds of ajuga, and that summertime favorite, tibuchina. You'll find lots and lots of the unordinary in this one-of-a-kind garden and nursery experience. It's Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens Nursery, Garden Center, and Landscaping, located on Southeast 38th Street, just east of Lake Weir Avenue. They're open daily till 4:30, Saturdays till 3:30, in the same blooming place for going on 70 years.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back. Now, if I turn the microphone on again, welcome back on Friday. Ocala Talks. It's time for the Early Learning Coalition segment of the show. Roseanne is in the building with us. She is the CEO of Early Learning Coalition. Roseanne, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I can't hear you because I don't have a headset on because I'm having a Monday.
No problem.
That's never good to have a Monday on. It's never good to have a Monday on a Friday.
I know. But we're here with you anyway. We'll get through it.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure my microphones are on. What microphone are we on? 1, 2, 4 down there. Turn that one on. I'm trying my best here. I'm trying my best. Okay, is everybody's mic? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, everybody's microphone's on. Now try yours again, Roseanne. So I know.
Good morning.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's all about making sure the buttons are pushed and the things. I'm a big dumb animal. I'm a man. What do you want from me?
You're doing a good job. You still got your gold star. We haven't taken it back yet.
The key word in that sentence is yet, isn't it?
Smart man.
Roseanne, why don't you tell us who we have with us today?
Sure. I'm happy to have with me today two of the team from the Early Learning Coalition. We have JoLynn Rathel. She's our literacy specialist advocate. And Latricia Sims. She's our Chief Operations Officer. And we're going to talk today about resource and referral, some of the resource information at the coalition.
Well, now, JoLynn, I got something different here. I got a big title over here.
Oh, what did I put?
Early Learning Coalition Literacy Outreach Advocate.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
me.
correct. So I'm having a Monday too. Is that what you're telling me, Tom? You're not alone in this.
Well, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Let's give us a little background on what you mean by when you say that.
Absolutely. First thing I want to do, of course, is give you a number. That's my job.
Right.
Our website, the Early Learning Coalition website, has over 6,000 visits a month. For
That's a pretty good website.
Yes, for people looking for information concerning children, whether it's child care resources, what is child care, where are they, how many do we have, what does it mean, what are the hours, as well as my child, I think, has a developmental delay. Where do I go? How do I handle this? What are my options? And I need a crib. I don't have a safe place for my baby to sleep. So resources and referral is a big part of what we do on a daily basis in the county.
We touched on that a little last week when we were talking about safety.
Yes.
I was amazed at how many people call in and say, do you have a car seat?
Yes.
Do you have a bassinet or a playpen? Because of what you talked about, how parents roll over, and that's a serious way infants die. Is parents put them in their bed because they're comfortable, and then somebody rolls over, the baby suffocates. So I was amazed at the numbers. 6,000 visits to your website is a big number, but I was amazed at the number of people that call in search of playpens, bassinets, car seats, stuff that I would think if you're a parent, you definitely have to have, and I would think you would make waste. I was surprised at the people that don't have access to those things. And then after the show, I got to thinking, well, Tom, not everybody lives above the poverty line. Not everybody lives. Even people that make, a two-parent household family, if they're only making $35,000, $40,000 a year combined, they're not doing well. They're barely scraping by, and things like a $150 bassinet from Walmart may not be one of the, food for the baby, bassinet for the baby. Sure. You go with food. So I bet you do get a lot of referral and requests for stuff.
Well, and remember, too, it's not just parents.
Right.
Because we have relative caregivers.
Yeah, grandmas and aunts.
And I'm a grandma, and if I got a call and somebody was in a bad spot, I'm going to go get that child no matter what the age of that child is. So we definitely appreciate the community understanding we're the call to make. If you have one call to make concerning a child, let it be the Early Learning Coalition, because if we don't have it, we know where to point you in the direction to receive some of those resources.
And how important is literacy outreach in this? Because you have to make some people, whether you like to admit it or not, we have a very uneducated, there's a large group of uneducated people, and I don't mean that they're dumb. They just didn't have the resources or the tutelage or a teacher that cared enough to make sure they were grasping what they had to grasp coming up. And then they get to be adults, and they need help sometimes from literacy outreach to be able to navigate the things that they need to do to get the assistance they need.
Absolutely. And, literacy we established is the foundation to early learning. And so it's huge, and it's so important, and the awareness of it. Not everybody knows it's important to start reading to your baby, even from the womb. Statistics show that the baby recognizes the stories in your voice, and when they're born, how important it is to continue that reading and that learning and growing.
Just read Charlotte's Web to your baby while they're in the womb. It's my favorite book.
I remember.
Just read that book. Just read that book till they're like 25. They're good.
And you know what, Tom, something that you mentioned, it's important to enjoy what you're reading. It's important to have fun, because if you're having fun, you're more likely to repeat that action, right? So it's so important not just to make it a chore. Reading shouldn't be a chore. It should be enjoyment. It should take you on adventures. And if you do that, if you establish that early on with children, you give them that love for literacy, the sky's the limit.
One of my favorite movies is literally the premise of the movie is a story's being read. The entire movie is a story being read, and the kid in the movie, Fred Savage, is the kid in the movie. Peter Falk is the granddad in the movie reading the story. And the whole premise of the movie is that Fred Savage is seeing the movie in his head as his grandfather's reading it to him, The Princess Bride. It is one of the best books you'll ever read. But people go, oh, that's a great movie. The book was so much better. It was so much better.
Let me, before you move on, let me just remind everybody that we have books for kids available. Yeah. We have a little free library in our parking lot. Parents can pull up and have the child pick out a book. And on an annual basis, through the coalition and now all the things that we do in the community as well as our partners, we distribute about 10 to 12,000 books a year for children. So we are that resource for parents or caregivers to reach out.
6,000 visits to the website every month. Now they're giving away 10 to 12,000 books every year.
Yes.
We also have a literacy initiative called Read Aloud 15 Minutes. And through that initiative this year alone, we've given over 12,000 books through that one. And what Roseanne's speaking of is the Early Learning Coalition. So we have all these books that we're getting out to the community. And if you're a business or organization and you want to have free children's books to place in your lobby and in your waiting areas, or if you're a parent that's looking for reading tips or resources or books, call us. We're here to provide that need for you and get the books out into the community.
I remember vividly when I first started learning to read. I was like 4 years old, 4 years old, and my mom had went and got some books, and I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. So, everybody go, oh, you got the Dick and Jane books. No, we didn't. We had a book called Matt the Rat, and it was a whole learning, just like Dick and Jane. It was Matt the Rat. see Matt scat because Matt sees the cat, stuff like that.
Right.
But no matter what the story is, as long as you're learning vocabulary and you're learning punctuation and how to pause at commas and everything, that's all part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Latricia, now I got to talk to you because I know the CEO gets to be the face of the company. I know literacy gets to help people read. But you do the day-to-day operations of the company, making sure that there's enough baby bassinets and playpens, making sure that you have a resource of child care, making child seats, making sure there are books to read. You got a daunting job as the chief operations officer.
Yes, and I love what I do. I have a passion for what I do. As Roseanne said, with our CCR9, we are the front door. So when parents come in, we're educating them on choosing quality childcare. We're generating childcare listings for them, and as well as with literacy. When we conduct face-to-face interviews with our parents, we always give those parents a book for their children to take home. So.
I know that I had a very good friend of mine's sister who was not very good in school. She didn't do well and all. She got in with a child care facility that asked her to read to her child. It was a 15-minute deal to read to her child. She told the lady, she goes, I'm not real good at reading. And she was not real good at reading. She goes, okay, well, here, can you read this? And she read a couple pages. She goes, you can read that good, right? She goes, yes. She goes, so read that with your child and you can learn together. And it was amazing. Within a year of her, she was very diligent because she wanted a mother that wanted her child to have better. And, she was always picked on in school when she was picked to read and everything. Bullying's a big part of how people, I can't read well, so I'm not going to do it because I get bullied and stuff. But within a year, she was proud. She was in her middle 20s, and we were all in our 20s. She was proud of how she had advanced. And she was like, I never understood why learning was important because she was a good basketball player in school, so the coaches let her, She said, I never understood why learning was important till I had a child. And now I understand the importance of learning. And that's what you're talking about.
Yes, we educate the parents as well.
Yeah. It's got to be a daunting task, though, to see how much need there is in our community. Because all of you have your passion for what you do, you love your work. What do you do? What do you do across the board, the three of you? What do you do to make sure you keep that positive attitude? Because it has to be, I would think after a while you go, is it ever going to get better? I mean, sometimes it would be frustrating to me, which is probably why Roseanne doesn't come ask me to come work with y'all. but at times, you're human. At times, it has to have an effect on you.
True. And, bottom line, why do we do what we do? To make an impact, right? So that keeps me going, and that keeps my passion fresh. And working with parents, you mentioned about, if someone has reading challenges, it's hard to engage with their child because of that insecurity or that lack of reading skill. And, it's so important just to encourage them to, if you're looking at a book, tell the story. Look at the pictures. You're talking with your child. You're engaging with your child. And that in itself is the foundation to helping a child become a good reader, is telling that story. And you mentioned, seeing stories and pictures. For me, that's my passion, is to help families and help parents to be a better parent and for their children to have that success and that engagement with their parent.
Roseanne, we talk about this, and I know we talk about it as we all speak English well, so we talk about, when we're talking parents that maybe aren't educated, but there are a lot of parents who are very educated, but they're educated in Spanish. They're not educated in English. They could be. So what do y'all have in place to help bridge that gap? Because I know a lot of times the kids speak better English than the parents do and play interpreter a lot of times.
Sure. And we do. Our staff, we do have members of our staff that speak Spanish. All of our material is also available in Spanish. So we have all of those resources available to ensure, again, the parent is our customer. So our goal is to be good providers of services and to meet their needs. And let me share with you another reason why we do the things that we do. One of my most recent success stories is we had a grandma come to our doors, and they're locked right now with COVID. We're
Right.
making some changes in the lobby, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Latricia was kind enough to let them in. She sat and she met with one of our teams. She received the services that she needed. And a few weeks later, she came and she knocked on the door, and Jolene opened the door for her, and she had in her hands bags and bags of freshly picked blueberries and said, "You all saved the day, and I can't give you big prizes, but here are some fresh blueberries for your staff."
That probably was worth more to you guys than if she'd have walked in with $100.
Absolutely. It was the sweetest blueberry.
I mean, you'd have
I've
took
ever had.
$100 because you need donations.
Sure.
But yeah, the fact that she picked, I mean, because to pick bags and bags full of
Yeah.
blueberries, you don't do that in 5 minutes.
No, you don't.
But that's why we do what we do, because we understand that we could be a lifeline for people when they're in a bad situation. And the success stories, we have to keep going back to them because we keep needing that new fuel. But those are the reasons why we work as hard as we do, and there is a need.
That's one of the lost things of 2021. And I know we're probably never going back to Beaver Cleaver, and we shouldn't. I understand that. But one of the lost things of the 21st century is that people do things just because they care without wanting anything in return for it. Like you helped. Sure, the grandmother was the customer, but you saw that she was in need, and the Early Learning Coalition helped her out.
Yes.
And without any guise of, hey, now make sure you bring us some blueberries or something in return. And, you did it because that's the right thing to do. And sometimes I think we lose in the 21st century. We've lost the ideals that. I'm not talking about if somebody's lazy and doesn't want to do something, you're supposed to go do their jobs for them. Sure. But if people are trying to be a success, trying to make sure their children have a successful path to success, an easier path to success, if you can be that helping hand that reaches out and gives them that push, that little lift up that helps them, why wouldn't you? And a lot of people say, not my business. Nope. I mean, it mind boggles me because when I was a kid, our neighborhood, you knew all the adults in the neighborhood. Mr. Britt my next door neighbor, Mr. Britt was a math teacher, high school math teacher. So when my mother wouldn't know how to do something, she'd say, go ask Mr. Britt if he'd help you. And he sure would. But that was in the 70s. We've kind of lost that ideal. And that's what the Early Learning Coalition is trying to do, is bridge that gap of that lost ideal.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we are, because when we watch in our county these young children enter kindergarten, and because they're ready, because of all of the early learning experiences they had, because of the initiative their parents and caregivers took, that's what makes it worthwhile. It's all about preparing the child to be successful academically.
And if you don't do that, children are mean. They're not mean by nature, but bullies are mean, and children sometimes, without knowing they're being mean, are mean. If a kid shows up, even at the small age of 5 or 6 at kindergarten, if they show up and they don't know their alphabet or they don't know their colors and all already, kids are going to pick on them. That's just how life is. It's not fair, but that happens. But if they show up prepared and ready, chances of being bullied, I bet, go down drastically.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. And being able to advise the parent on things that they can do to better prepare their child is also going to assist with the reduction of bullying. There's a lot of things in place. We understand, too, that children as young as 2 and 3 years old, unfortunately, have mental health needs.
Certainly.
And so we have to address those. So it's altogether a big picture.
1972, I was one of the first children in the state of Florida to be given Ritalin because they said that I had ADHD at 6 years old in 1972, and people just thought, he's just a bad kid. He's just he's got a temper tantrum. That Tommy kid, he's uncontrollable. They put me on Ritalin. Now all of a sudden I was calm in the classroom. I was doing good. Now don't get me wrong, I still had my issues like all children do. But now I think it's overprescribed. But back in 72, it was not I was one of the first that they thought there may be a mental situation here. And by the way, I don't shy away from it. Mental illness is just like heart defects, lung problems, cancer. It's all an illness. Yes. And the fact that I'm so upset right now with the tennis world that they made the girl ranked second. She was the number 2 seed at Roland Garros. Made her quit the tournament because she gets anxiety and mental issues so bad when she has to talk to reporters and when they crowd around her that she just refused to do it. And they started fining her hundreds of thousands of dollars at the time instead of understanding this young lady has a mental issue. And sometimes we think 3 and 4 year olds are just bad kids. He just throwing a temper tantrum for a reason when there could be mental issues going on. And that's something that a lot of people don't know how to address, right. But you can help them at the Early Learning Coalition.
Absolutely. Again, we are, as Latricia said, that front door, whatever a parent feels their needs are or questions are. If they come, Latricia's team is the team that they see when they walk in, and they do an excellent job with dealing with their parents.
Latricia, I bet you see, I bet there's a myriad of things you see on a daily basis come through the front door.
Yes. But I also believe that our children are our future. So in spite of, I always tell my team, you never know what that parent was going through before they came into our office. Your priority is to ensure that that child is in care and receiving quality child care, and that parent understands that, like I said, our children are our future.
A lot of parents don't have a support system, and ELC is the support system that they get. A lot of parents, you say you're a grandmother, so you can help. A lot of people, maybe grandma lives out of state, yes. or there's no aunt and uncle. Or they came in, they moved to Florida. They had a child with a man, and then didn't go right. So now they're a single parent, and they have no family base around. That's one of the big reasons I would think ELC is a great resource here in our community, is to help those people that don't have a support staff.
That's right.
Yep, and that's exactly some of the people that come through our door, is people who are down and out. We have business owners in this county that received help through the coalition to get through because they didn't know what to do or who to turn to, and they showed up at our door. And on the reverse side of that, we have people who are affluent, they have a good financial base, and they say, okay, I got a baby, what do I do? The baby didn't come with directions. And we can provide them with resources and books and ideas so that they grow up to be awesome just like you.
I always say, I thank you for that, by the way. I always say, you got to have a license to fish. You got to have a license to drive. You got to have a license to sell real estate. You got to have a license to be a cook in a kitchen. You got to have a license for everything, except the most important thing we do as humans, and that's procreate. And we go, you'll figure that out. Don't worry about it. Right. It makes no sense to me why we don't educate, except for you and little Johnny carry the egg around for a week in the high school halls, and if it doesn't break, you're going to be successful parents. That was the dumbest thing I ever did in high school, was to carry the egg around. And that's the only training you get. The most important thing we do are being parents. And it's the one thing they say, that driver's handbook, that teaches you how to drive a car. Where's the parent handbook? Well, ELC helps provide the parent handbook.
Yeah, we do. Latricia, what are some of the resources that we have available for
Got
parents?
about 1 minute.
We have 211. We have a community resource directory that any parent that needs anything such as housing, food, or shelter, we have the information that we're able to provide to them.
Just anything you want to help advance and make you and your child's life easier. The Early Learning Coalition will help you with that, or put you in the direction of people that can't, because you don't have all the answers, but you know where to send people to get the answers if you don't have it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, I want to thank Roseanne coming in, Jolynn, she's the Early Learning Coalition Literacy Outreach Advocate, for coming in, and Latricia Sims, she's the Early Learning Coalition Chief Operating Officer, for coming in. Joanne, I'll see you next Friday.
Yep, pleasure.
You'll bring new guests, or we'll just three of you come back, we'll have a good time again.
Next week, we're going to talk about special needs, unique needs, disabilities. What are they? What do we do about it? How do we identify them and make them better?
That's a very, very important subject as we go forward into the 21st century. Thanks, ladies, for being here.
Thank you.
This is WOCA The Source. We'll be right back after this short timeout. People from Beneficial Hearing will be here on The Source.